Nashville.
Pray you're all doing well during this season of somewhat being at home and somewhat being out and about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm excited to be making my debut on Facebook Live. Great to be here.
Yay! Okay, so it looks like there are some friends with us. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to do some intros. I'm Morgan Campey, one of the committee members for Friends of Adziwa. My family, we've been longtime supporters of the Adziwa ministry in Malawi, family sponsors and classroom sponsors, previous members of the People's Church, now Church of the City, East attendees, and definitely have a heart for Adziwa and our friends across the ocean. So I'm so excited to be here.
Okay,
Ken.
and I'm Ken Morris, and I was on staff at the People's Church starting in 1997, a long time. And Pastor Rick Wright, then pastor of the People's Church, and myself went to Africa in 2007. And that's where we met our friends at Capital City Baptist Church, and where we began becoming involved and partners with the Adziwa program. And I'm still at Church of the City, but God has, as a member, as a stakeholder, but God's changed some things in my life, and I'll talk about that later.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ken.
I'm Emily Wright, and I have been at the church, formerly the People's Church, since 2005, and had missions on my heart, and was able to go to Adziwa first in 2014, and just fell in love with the kids, and particularly the medical ministry there, because I'm a nurse. Went back again in 2015, and as we evolved into the Church of the City, have just loved this ministry ever since, and we love supporting it whatever way we can as family and classroom sponsors, and just grateful to be a part of what we're doing now and what we're evolving into and what God's doing.
Thanks. So we're just going to jump right in for whoever's watching, and we're going to start with you, Ken. What is new with you these days?
Yeah, well, entering into a new season in my life. I said earlier that I started at the People's Church, then became Church of the City in 97. And other than 40 years being missionary in Kosovo, I've been at the church up until January. And starting in February, I've taken the position of Executive Director of Lifeway Mission International. And now hold on a second, let me clarify. Lifeway Mission International doesn't have anything to do with Lifeway Resources, Lifeway Bookstore. They share the same name, but Lifeway Mission International is an indigenous African mission sending organization that focuses just on unreached people groups. It's Africans reaching Africans. And in the 50 or so years I've been involved in missions, they are the most effective, most spirit empowered mission organization I've ever been associated with, and so I'm thrilled to be on board with them now.
Awesome. That's exciting. Big transition for you.
It is, but I love it.
Yeah. So how does Lifeway International interact with Adziwa?
Well, a couple of years ago, Pastor Sandris and his wife Tamida, pastor of Capital City Baptist Church, the church that has the Adziwa ministry, they, along with the executive or the principal of Adziwa School, Christian Chete, the three of them and myself went to Nairobi to learn more about some disciple-making principles that have been used throughout Africa to see disciple-making movements. And while we were there, it was hosted by Lifeway Mission International. And while we were there, learned some things that when Christian got back and began to apply, God just began to do some amazing things. And as people were coming to Christ, we kept in touch with Lifeway and began to explain, God's doing something here. Can you help us knowing how to manage these folks coming to Christ? And so began an ongoing relationship. And out of that, Lifeway has remained connected with Christian, and have been a real resource for us in developing the discipleship component of Adziwa ministry.
Okay. And what about stateside? What does that look like since you're the representative for Lifeway International here and then Adziwa there?
Yeah. So Lifeway has become connected, and part of that, and I think Emily will explain a little bit more about the Adziwa Family Sponsorship Program, but there are some financial resources through the Adziwa Family Sponsorship Program that no longer are being channeled through Church of the City. Church of the City is still very connected, but that aspect of what they were able to do has shifted, and Lifeway Mission International now is going to be helping send the funds from the Adziwa Family Sponsorship to Capital City Baptist Church.
Okay, so Adziwa, you mentioned their Church of the City is still connected, but Adziwa is not necessarily underneath Church of the City anymore. So what does that relationship look like?
Yeah, well, you think of Adziwa is in the center, and wrapped around Adziwa is Capital City Baptist Church because it's their ministry. Well, for the last 13 years, Church of the City has had a partnership with them, and they still have a partnership with them. While the last year or so I was on staff, we were kind of reinventing missions. And instead of just a few partners, they have changed that, and now they have 24 missional partners. Adziwa is one of those. But in order to have 24 partners, they were not able to continue to do all of the things that they were doing with Adziwa. There's just, and to be honest, I was the one managing a lot of that. And with my departure, we felt like something needed to change. And so that's when we began to say, Church of the City is going to stay related, but the Adziwa Family Sponsorship, some of these other things, who either those no longer happen or someone else needs to pick those up. And that's where Friends of Adziwa began to come together. And again, Emily can talk about that. So what started out as one partner with Adziwa, we are now looking at 3 partners, and we all play a different role, but I think all of us continue to believe this is something special that God's been doing, and God's only expanding the resourcing of this ministry.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the 3 partners, and earlier you mentioned Capital City Baptist Church. So there may be some new friends who actually aren't aware that Adziwa was born out of a relationship between churches. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier when Pastor Rick White, when we were People's Church, we wanted to connect with Africa, and so we went on a trip and looked at different potential partners. And when we came to Capital City Baptist Church and saw what they were doing with AIDS orphans who were being taken care of by local families, but those families were at risk and were having needs, Capital City, 10 years prior to that visit, started working in this impoverished village with those families. So by the time we met them, they were already serving and working with these families who are caring for orphans, and had been doing that 10 years. So to date, they've been doing that 23 years.
Wow.
So that began a church-to-church partnership. Which
actually, as you're saying, was birthed from local resources that were already pouring into a local need. That's great.
We just said, can we come alongside? We love your vision. Can we come alongside and join you and try and add value to what you're doing?
Wow, that's amazing. Talk about empowerment. Mm-hmm. So, Friends of Adziwa, but there's also Adziwa. Emily, do you want to tell us about that and the distinction?
Yeah, sure. So So what Ken said and what he talked about with us growing from the People's Church into Church of the City, what we found because of the needs of Adziwa Christian School, we were able to begin to support their primary school, which is kindergarten through 8th grade. In Africa, you would call that Standard 8. And then they have since opened a secondary school, which there is Form 1 to Form 4, and here would be 9th to 12th grade. So the growth over the years and what God has done there has just multiplied in so many ways. But what we were seeing as we were continuing to grow this program, and as we were finding more applications from new guardians who had children and orphans they were taking in and who wanted to receive excellent education, like at a school like Adziwa, was that we were basically beginning to grow a nonprofit inside of our church, which was amazing, but also became a big thing in and of itself. And as we looked at Church of the City evolving their partnerships and looked at where God had us and looked at the connections that we were making, we began to realize that this is really something that God's calling us to take out on its own, to continue to do the same thing as we've always done, which is wrap around what Capital City Baptist Church does, to provide prayer and support financially to help these kids have hope and future. Adziwa in the local language means he knows, and that comes from Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And that hope and future is what we started out wanting to help provide and what he has grown and multiplied. And so coming out of the church and taking our wings as the Lord's kind of giving us this breath underneath us, we are still doing the same things we always have been. But this part, this family sponsorship program that we provide, the health and nutrition that we work to support, that will now be called Friends of Adziwa instead of Adziwa. And in that, what we are able to do is not only move out of this four walls of this church who has supported us so well for all of these years, but it gives us the opportunity to not only continue to connect with those families who love and support with us, who are in that church, but move into what God is making a kingdom ministry. And that has been an incredible thing, because now we're connecting with people across state lines and country lines to share the story of what God's doing in Malawi, and join people together with that. So Africa is a huge continent. Malawi is known as the warm heart of Africa. And what I love so much is that God's heart brought our heart to the warm heart of Africa. And so now our goal is to bring more people and connection and hearts to continue to support and love that ministry like we do. We are a volunteer army at this point, people who have loved and served and been to Adziwa over the years. And our dedication comes from what the Lord stirred up in us, in our hearts, to just move this ministry forward and maintain this commitment, because we know that what he's doing now, although it's still the same, and although there's something new to it, he's going to continue to multiply that in that school. So I think the other thing that I wanted to say was that as we continue to wrap around, we really hope that here and the connections that we make via social media or just conversations that God allows us to have via emails. And if you want to join with us to come to Malawi at some point, we really hope that we can do our part on the US side to continue to honor what God is doing in Africa.
Yeah. So good. You've said before and in some of our calls that you really view this as a kingdom ministry. And even just through our test yesterday, we were introduced to someone who is local in Malawi who wraps around Adziwa as well. And there's been time, right. And there's been times in my spread over there when I was living that we interacted with other organizations for different countries. So we really have come to know that there are people all over the world who are wrapping around, coming alongside the local leaders there, just like started, 23 years ago. So
yeah, It's been really great because one of the things I was going to say is we have a medical team that was scheduled to go this month, and we look forward to rescheduling our medical camp at the school as soon as we can. But what God did as we began to spread the word about that team was we actually had our meetings had to be virtual because he brought to us team members who were spread around the United States, and it just gave us the ability to tap into others' gifts and let them come and begin to learn of the goodness that's there with these kids and what they're doing. So Adziwa Christian School is known for the excellent education that they provide, and it's no small feat that they've been able to achieve that with the dedication of our principal, Christian Chete, our incredible staff who are heroes every day and love on these kids, and our amazing nurse, Cecilia Masosa, who loves on these kids and helps them now have the ability to be healthier, and if they're sick to come into the school nursing to get well, and it's just growing from there. So one of the things I love that Christian Chete, our principal, has said is that while the school has been closed now for 2 months, he has been out in the village doing home visits, and one of the things that really drew him in and just amazed him as well was that he found 3 different groups of students at Adziwa who, in the absence of having school, had come together not only to pray for their partners and to pray for the staff, but to pray for each other, that they would be able to open the doors and to come back to this education and this love and this discipleship that they receive. And that alone tells you a little bit about what they're receiving at the school. The 4 pillars of that school are discipleship, education, health, nutrition, and economic sustainability. And so you really get to see every piece of that being loved and nurtured so well. And we want to continue that with the gifts that we continue to send and how we support them long term. So,
yeah. This is just also exciting, and it's amazing to see what has evolved over time.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
No, go ahead. I'll say.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, what can we as supporters and friends of Adziwa, what can we be doing during this new season?
So there are several things. One, it's so exciting that we're actually like virtually live, because we were so excited to have this event in March where we could share and celebrate Ken's accomplishments at the church through Adziwa, his new season that he's moving to, and what is evolving now in Malawi. And we just want to begin to connect more with people. We want the story of what's happening there to begin to be shared. And so first thing you can do is pray for us, with us. These students, these teachers, these guardians who are raising these children, and most of them, some of them not even their own that they've taken in, they feel our prayers. When we've been in Africa, they tell us, I know that you pray for me, and that is a huge gift to them. So prayer for them and prayer for us as we kind of move into this fledgling, ministry on our own and begin to grow. The other thing is to learn about us. So connect. We have an email address. It's info@friendsofadziwa.org. We would love for you to reach out to us or post your email address here so that we can add you to our email list. And social media connections, Facebook, Instagram, Friends of Adziwa is how you find us. And we're working really hard. Morgan's doing an amazing job of just beginning to let you know, what's Malawi like? What's Kauma Village like? What are the students like? Who are we? And what we want to help continue God to do, or to do through the Lord in Africa. The third thing is that you can support us. We are volunteer driven, and we are an army of people who love this ministry, but we are at about 80% of the 100% that we need to continue our financial support long term. And we're trusting the Lord to connect with new friends to join with us financially as they can. And so if that means, you don't get a Starbucks a month and there's $5 you want to support us with, that in Africa buys a malaria testing kit and medication to treat one child, and you can cure malaria in one child at Adziwa with that $5. $10, what I'm told, and my Malawian friends can correct me here, but that a bag of maize is about 14 US dollars and can feed a family for a really long time. We have classroom sponsors. Those are $30 a month. So if you want to connect with a classroom, or if you want to connect with a family and really just see what life is like for them, those are $75 a month. One-time gifts, any support is appreciated. And I know this particular time, this pandemic season, is really difficult to get out there and say, we would love for you to jump in with us financially. But you know that if that's something you can do, then great. If you received a stimulus check and you're not really sure what to do with it because you didn't have immediate needs, we would love to be part of that blessing. But if you can't, we want to connect with you. We want you to pray with us. Our biggest desire is to build this community. And the financial part is an important piece of that, but it's just a piece. So we need all of those things, but we want to continue to connect with you so that you can also feel in your heart what we already feel for our friends in Malawi.
Thank you, Emily.
Sure.
Hey, Morgan, let me just take a moment and
Please.
And I would like to. I've had a front row seat for 13 years, but I really believe that Adziwa began through the prayers of the widows and orphans in this little squatters village called Kauma. And that was 23 years ago. And God tapped on the shoulders some people in Capital City Baptist Church when some of the local pastors from that village came over and said, can you help us? Many of our members are barely surviving, and they're overwhelmed by the orphans that they're now taking care of. And so Capital City, as I mentioned earlier, for 10 years, faithfully showed up week after week, helping those at-risk families. And then God tapped on our shoulder and connected us. In the last 13 years or so, even when we shifted from the People's Church to Church of the City and merged there, Pastor Darren, the first 2 years, featured Adziwa in our missions emphasis, and so they remain, the church remains connected, but in the last 2 years, as Christian Chete, the headmaster, continues to be the principal, but as God has used him to extend beyond into the community and led him in sharing Christ with others who then have shared Christ with others. Literally in the last 2 years, we can track thousands of people from different religious traditions, not from Christianity, who've now become believers through this movement. And so Adziwa remains, it's at the core. And the stream is just splitting. The need for community development, to see those orphan kids have an education that's transformational, still is there. But I'm following the stream that's extending beyond. Friends of Adziwa is staying to maintain strong support at what has really been the base. And to me, it's a reflection of the heart of God, who can take something that's seemingly insignificant, and so many people in that village not even literate, and yet out of those people draw such value and worth to do something that's literally impacting other countries in the world, and seeing thousands of people come to know Jesus Christ. It's an amazing story. And Adziwa, what we've heard about Friends of Adziwa, Capital City Baptist Church, we're all a part of it. And it's only continuing and expanding. So I really invite you to be part of this story. And so you've heard several ways to do that. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, for reminding me, and also just bringing back to the forefront our partners at Capital City Baptist Church. We couldn't do anything if it weren't for their leadership and their connection on the ground, their willingness to continue to closely engage with and foster this school. And having that has given us a stronger relationship over the years where we can lean into their leadership and their direction and really just come alongside what they're doing and continue to grow that. I know their long-term vision is exciting and it's big. I know there's a hope to build a tertiary school so that these kids who are emerging from high school can learn further and learn a trade. There's a hope that they can give security to the school and build a fence and add more excellence to their education, but also safety there. And there are so many things that God is doing, adding nutrition, different things to their diets, in the nutritional program. And so what our hope is here is not only are we growing these new roots or new branches, I guess you would say, but we also want us to continue the course because he's growing that too. And so we're just so grateful for the time that you all have given us to join us here, to learn, to come later and watch this and just connect with us. I really hope that as we move forward, we can jump on virtually, since we can't go across the ocean yet, and chat with our principal, Chete, and chat with Cecilia, our nurse, and pray with them and get to know them, and to chat with our friends at Capital City Baptist Church and to link arms with them in prayer over the leadership that they provide. So we're really excited to connect with you initially today, but more so in the future so that we can keep you up to date and you can come with us on this journey. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yay!
Yep. And for those, I no longer have my Church of the City address. For those of you that don't know how to get in contact with me, here you go.
Boom. There it is.
Boom.
We'll add it on social media as well, just to make sure you guys don't lose Ken. He is moving into this amazing new position that is just totally made for him. And we are so thrilled for him. But as we say here at Friends of Adziwa, he's not allowed to get off the bus. He's still going to be helping advise us in all the ways he has with his wisdom over the years. But we're just so grateful for all of those who are behind the scenes. You only see 3 of us today, and there are so many who love this ministry well, who offer their time and talents to help us do what we're doing now and to grow it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it truly does take a village. We do have a couple questions. Someone has asked about, since the students are not in school, about meals, because that's primarily where some of them get it. Do y'all want to answer that?
So what we know is that the Malawian government was looking to lock down with the pandemic approaching Malawi, and they closed the schools about 2 months ago. So what that means for our kids, unfortunately, is they are not able to be fed with the feeding program because the school doors are closed. One of the things that we have heard is that a ministry came and provided some food to the families, and we're in the process as well of seeking how we can faithfully come alongside those needs with Capital City Baptist Church to help in this time. For better or worse, thankfully, it was harvest time in Malawi. So a lot of people who would be still in the hungry season and months before this is what they call it, before the harvest, when they begin to run out of food. They actually were moving into a season where food could be found. And that has helped some of our families. And we're so thankful for that and the timing of that. And we're seeking to figure out how we can partner well to help with some of those needs. But also follow the direction of our partners there in Malawi. So if you would pray about that, that has been our primary prayer for our kids, is health and safety, and that they're not going hungry. I do know they were able to open the medical clinic this week. It's malaria season as well, which I think some in Malawi call flu season, I'm learning. But our school nurse and our principal, as they were able to visit homes, were able to identify some of the sick children and guardians and able to treat some of them and help with some of the needs to keep them healthy. Thankfully, there's been no coronavirus in Kauma Village to our knowledge, and we're praying the Lord keeps it far, far away from there.
Awesome, thank you. The next question, we talked about the ways that we people can be involved, one of the questions was, how do they give? So literally, what do they do? Where do they go? How does that happen?
So we have a Facebook page that is evolving. So give us grace when you go. You'll see a little bit of information, but it will continue to get better. So come back. And it's Friends of Adziwa, ADZIWA.org. And there you can find the video that tells the history of the ministry. And at the bottom of the page, there's a single button that says Give. And so what you can do is you can click this button, and it'll take you over to the Kindful platform that we use. What you'll notice when you go there is that it says Church of the City at the top. Church of the City has kindly allowed us to stay under their roof financially until we can get our accounts and things set up. So that will happen soon. So while it says Church of the City now, your funds are still directly coming to us. And when it evolves and says Friends of Adziwa, that means they're still coming to us. So don't let that give you hesitation. You can do a one-time gift. You can set up a recurring gift of different amounts. And if you want to sponsor a class or a family specifically, you can choose those options as well. So there are many options. And even if you just go take a look, we're so grateful for you answering that call if you feel it.
And that's on the website, right?
That is on the website,
okay.
friendsoftheziwa.org.
Okay.
Scroll to the bottom and then just click on the button Give, and it'll take you over to where you can follow the prompts and give there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And then our social media channels will direct people to the website as well.
Yes. And we need to add to our emails if we haven't, and you can correct me, but links as well to Facebook and Instagram. No, I think that's already on there. So
we're evolving too, y'all.
Yeah, we are learning as we go and gaining new talents that we didn't know we would ever have.
Yes. Yeah. Ken or Emily, do you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, I do want to say, I know some of you have been faithfully supporting Adziwa families for years, because the Adziwa family sponsorship started in 2010. So it's been going on for 10 years, and some of you have been participating. I want to thank you, and for those that have come on along the way, again, thank you so much. And for others, as you're praying, and maybe you can't give, but there's some volunteer things that ways that Emily had mentioned that you could step up and volunteer. But thank you for just listening to us today and being a part of this, and wanting to be informed, and hopefully it helped.
Yeah.
I was going to say on top of that we're just so grateful that we have been able to be part of this amazing ministry for as long as we have. And we're so excited to see what God is going to do with it and who will come and join us as we move into the future. And so grateful for the dedication of Capital City Baptist Church and of Christian Chete and our staff and our nurse at the school. We couldn't possibly do any of the things that happen. We are but a very small piece of what happens at Adziwa every day, and they are the true heroes.
Yes.
So grateful for them and their faith. So.
So everyone who is joining us right now, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to spend your lunch hour with us. This is not going to be the first time that we're going to engage with you guys virtually. We'd love to know some things that you want to learn more about. Like Emily said, there are pillars that Friends of Adziwa supports, which are the pillars at Adziwa Christian School. I see that some people have asked about medical, that we can definitely do a lunch and learn about that. Economic sustainability. My heart is 100% with the women who are in support of the students that are there. And we'd love to engage with you guys about that. Education, of course, and then discipleship. So if there are things you want to learn more about that we're doing or supporting that's happening in Lilongwe, please let us know, whether you comment here or email us, tell us on social media. If there's things that you want to share, or you just want to learn more about, or you have questions that you want to hear more from us regarding, please let us know. We're happy to do that.
And someday soon, there'll be opportunities to go and serve again. And
yes,
taken teams, and we will still continue to take teams of medical, teacher-based, service-based, as we can help, and as they let us know from Adziwa and Capital City Baptist Church if there are needs we can help with, then we'll be going back as well. So we hope some of you will join us.
Zikomo.
Zikomo, Tio Nana.
Thank you. God bless you guys.